Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on volume 20 of Yona of the Dawn. Oh, I have really loved volumes 18 and 19. I've loved this whole series so far, but volume 18 felt like a turning point where you suddenly knew pretty much everything that you needed to know about the dragons, everything you needed to know moving forward, and now I feel like things are going to be kicking into motion, and we've established all these characters and their base relationships with one another, and so the rest of this series, we're only at volume 20, and right now the series is at volume like 36 or 37, maybe volume 38 is coming out in Japan, so we still have like another we're really like halfway through where the manga is now, which is crazy. That means there's so much left to go. And I'm really excited to see where it goes now because we've kind of established everything enough where we can move forward. So I did have a few notes from KixK before I wanted to start this and then read volume 20. But I've honestly taken over a week off. I've been trying to catch up with recordings I recorded volumes 18 and 19 like almost back to back because I couldn't wait. And then I was like, I need to catch up on some other recordings. So I kind of put this off and now I'm like, no, I need to read volume 20. So I'm going to be reading volume 20 and then next week I'm going to be out of town on the weekend for vacation, so I was like, I may go ahead and record volume 21 before I leave just so that I'll have it done when I come back. So I probably won't be waiting a week in between these volumes, which is exciting because KixK noted that, not really a spoiler, but I kept questioning in volumes 18, I'm like, where's the drinking scene that was in the OVAs? Did they just make that up and just use it as a opener and closer of the OVAs to make it all be more cohesive since it is like coming directly out of like 10 volumes after this anime ends. And KixK noted that the OVA drinking contest is actually in volume 21. And I was like, oh, okay. So they just took something random from a later volume that was canon, tied it in, made it all work together. Fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I was like, all right, cool. KixK also noted that the VA for Zeno is Hiro Shigomo, which I was like, who is that? And then it was like, it's Connie's VA from Attack on Titan and also Zenitsu from Demon Slayer. I was like, oh, I knew that Zenitsu and Connie shared a voice actor, but I didn't realize that Zeno was it. And it makes perfect sense because if you've watched Attack on Titan or Demon Slayer, Connie and Zenitsu's characters, they're kind of more... It's weird to say comedy in Attack on Titan because it's not really a comedy at all. But they're more comedic characters. They get more comedic lines. And then Zenitsu gets a lot of comedic lines. But they're both characters that have lots of energy about them. And so the fact that Zeno has all this energy because immortal and is able to switch from being serious to being humorous. Zenitsu's character in Demon Slayer switches from being serious to humorous all the time. So that makes perfect sense. I like that. The voice actor has a lot of range in the characters that he voices. And so I'm glad they picked him for Zeno because Zeno has a lot of range. He goes from being this wise, sage immortal to acting like a 17-year-old eternal teenager. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I also liked some of the theories that KixK brought up that I wanted to go ahead and say before we start this volume. One of which being the idea that Zeno has said he's watched Hawk and Yona from the start, or specifically Yona from the start. And we know that since he found out that Hiryu was being reborn, the Red Star, he's been looking for her. And so KixK said, it's not confirmed, but it could be a theory that when there was that arrow that was fired that allowed Hawk and Yona to get away in volume 1, they thought it was from the boy, the attendant, but the boy was like, I don't know, maybe it was me. And it could have been Zeno. Could have been Zeno that saved them. And it's like, oh, okay. So that would be a cool tie-in that it was actually Zeno that allowed them to escape all this time. But the other thing is, and this is kind of like really sad, but the idea that Guin, who was the original White Dragon, he was the one that told Zeno, he's like, I want you to come see me. I'll wait for you. And then Zeno was too afraid to go see him because he didn't want to see his friend having grown old. And so what KixK proposed was that it could be that Guin had all this built up regret from not seeing his friend again, that it just built up over and over the generations of all the White Dragons. So this fierce loyalty is tied to Hiryu, but then this sense of wanting to wait for someone for centuries, it could be tied to Hiryu, but it could also be tied to Zeno. And so there's been moments in the manga where Zeno and Kija have had like bonding moments and weird little discussions. And I'm like, oh, it could be that what's inside the white dragon is not only a desire to protect Hiryu and serve them, but also a desire to see Zeno again. And so it's really heartbreaking and kind of bittersweet that Guen never got to see him, but then Kija's getting to see Zeno now, so it's kind of fulfilling that promise. It's like all the dragons are just, they're so beautiful and wonderful and heartbreaking. Kusanagi, what are you doing? So I am excited. So when we last left off, things were not looking good. Yona had just gotten like chloroformed. Riri was passed out from drinking the tea. It looked like that some of the Nadai addicts were actually working for someone that was on to Riri. Riri had been investigating Nadai near the Say borders, and so it was pretty much that someone caught on to Riri and they were trying to get her out of the way. And now Yona and the crew are involved as well. So I don't know what's going to happen with this because... So I woke up this morning, I poured a cup of coffee, and I was like, I want to read volume 20 and find out what's going to happen with Yona. I feel like Yona's going to be safe, but I'm like, how? The question is, knowing that this manga is 36 volumes, knowing that we're not near... we're just at the midway point. I feel like, as far as stakes go, I feel like Yona is safe, but I don't know about anybody else aside from Yona. I feel like Yona and the dragons are safe. Hawk, I feel, is safe. I don't know about anybody else. And then I'm just more curious, like, how are they going to get out of this situation, and what are the repercussions of it going to be? Like, what is the effects of what they do? And now that we know that Zeno's immortal, how's that going to play into it? Because it's funny, ever since they found out Zeno was immortal, like, Jeha seems even more protective of him. And I'm like, Jeha, he's immortal, he can't die, but you're like more gung-ho about protecting him now. It's just apt for his character. But yeah, I've talked enough, we've wasted enough time, we need to get going with this volume. So I hope you all enjoy this reaction to the manga and the discussion afterwards. But we're going to start volume 20 of Yona the Dawn here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. There's no way I can wait for volume 21 now. There's no way. No, there's not. There's no way. I just, what? What was this volume? Oh my god. Ugh! Oh god, the whole thing with Soo-won meeting the dragons, the whole thing with Soo-won realizing that they're real, that it's not a myth. Oh, okay. I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel. Oh my god, man. So Hawk knows. So Hawk knows that Soo-won is there, and I love that Hawk uses the image of Yona to give him strength in that moment, because he's like, what do I do? My first goal is to save Yona. He's like, I hate Soo-won for betraying us, but he's like, and I feel like when Sheena and Kija are like, we don't sense anything bad from him. So he must be okay. And Kija's like, well, I feel bad because Hawk's going to be mad at me. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe after this is the first step towards Hawk coming to terms. And we find out finally from Soo-won, he doesn't want to be king. He just wants to make the kingdom stronger and then back down. So he doesn't expect to be there full time, which is interesting because I don't know how that's going to sit with the rest of the kingdom once they find out that this is all just temporary. We're going to go through and see who was with him in that moment when he was telling them all this. Oh my god, there's no way I'm waiting a week to read volume 21. I'm sorry, y'all have to wait a week, but there's no way I can. No, there's no way. There's no way. Yeah, okay. So this whole volume and going to the fort, like I love that Kusanagi builds on so much from like the whole series in this volume. Like Kusanagi builds on so much. It's so good. So the idea, one, that we've established how dangerous Nadai is. So she builds upon like the fact that Nadai is a problem and that how dangerous it is. We've spent like the whole Water Tribe arc establishing just how dangerous Nadai is. And so now we take this narrative element, this MacGuffin of the Nadai, and then we put Yona and Riri in a situation where we're on a time clock and being like, they've only got a few days till they get thirsty enough they're going to drink anything, and all they're going to get is the Nadai laced water. So that gives like an edge. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, is like the stakes of it all, right? Because we as the readers know Yona's probably not going to die, right? She's not going to die because she's the main character. So it's like, okay, well, how do we put her in a situation where we as the audience feel tense and we feel like there's stakes and that there's some kind of sense of desperation? Okay, well, Riri could not be a permanent character. Riri may die. So they're taking her to the execution grounds. So Riri could die. And so that's a very real possibility in this series. So let's add the stakes of, one, tempting her and Yona with Nadai, which is a drug, and obviously none of the other characters want either of them to have any of that. But then by the end of this volume, with the stakes of Riri being captured, and now they've got to rescue her from being executed because they don't see any purpose of her. So it's like, yeah, okay. It's giving us stakes as a reader to where we are invested and we're like, okay, what's going to happen? But man, Yona taking the whip, like she's been whipped. She's got her leg got hit by an arrow. Our girl, like when Hawk and them find her. But so I also like the idea that that Subaru was just a Say merchant that they paid off and she was a Nadai seller that just wanted to get Riri out of the way. But man, even Yona's eyes, those glares that she has, like even that is enough to like distract and make the guard be like, okay, I'm going to stop. I want to note, a lot of people in the Discord were saying that Soo-won and Yona together look like Hiryu. And I'm like, yeah, they do. They both look like him together. The scene where Yona like guards Riri and has her arms stuck out and her hair's like all down, she looks a lot like Hiryu in that. But here's the thing, Sheena, I was wondering when Soo-won touched Kija's hand, if there'd be like a reaction. Like when they encounter Yona, there is a reaction, right? Yona is in fact Hiryu reborn. Which is funny because a lot of you were noting in the Discord saying that Yona is from the Sky Tribe descended, and we know the Crimson King was from the Fire Tribe. So the question is Yona's mom originally from the Fire Tribe? Everybody's talking about like how Soo-won looks like them. Is Soo-won's mom from the Fire Tribe? That wouldn't surprise me because Taejun and Kyoga have like the white blonde hair. Soo-won has the blonde hair and looks nothing like his father Yuhan. So maybe his mother's from the Fire Tribe. It would be funny if Soo-won is actually descended from Hiryu, but Yona's the reincarnation. Like that would be kind of the humorous thing of it, if that's the sense. But we'll talk about that whole chapter. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But I just love the friendship of Yona and Riri. Like whether you ship them as a couple, if there was a couple that was not Hawk and Yona and not possibly Soo-won and Yona, which I don't like to ship Soo-won and Yona. That's just not me. I'd rather ship Soo-won with Hawk because I think that's much more legitimate. And we'll talk about that. But if I were to ship Yona with any other character other than Hawk, it'd probably be Riri. I like Yona and Riri together. They have a great friendship and relationship, and they both sacrifice so much for each other. And Riri kind of reminds me a lot of like a younger Yona mixed with current Yona. It's a cool dynamic. I love it. But let's go. We've got the author Mangaka's notes, and I've been skipping them throughout this volume, and I've wanted to read them so badly. So now we're going to go back through. So this is the first one. Yona of the Dawn, Volume 20. We finally reached Volume 20. Whoa. Thank you so much for keeping up with the story so long. I hope you continue reading it. There'll be a special edition of Volume 20 in Japan that comes with a collection of rough sketches. It'll have a ton of scribbles, drawings for exclusive flyers, and small ideas that I've posted on Twitter and other places. I worked hard to make a lot of new material. I think it's a must-have for anyone who likes Yona characters. It's 52 pages, and some of them are even in color. It'll probably only be included in the first printing, so snap it up fast. That's cool. I like that. So yeah, the reveal that it's Nadai laced with everything. And then Hawk in this volume is fascinating because Hawk's whole journey, this entire series so far leading up to this volume, has been Hawk's ability to trust others to care for Yona like he cares for her. Because Hawk, when he started out, took on a lot of the responsibility of protecting Yona by himself. And he even comments on it later about what things would have been like if they just stuck together, the two of them, and not had the help from anybody else. And the answer is it would have been bad. And I'm glad he realizes that. We'll talk about it when we get to it. But Hawk is very quiet in this volume, and Yoon very appropriately tells the other dragons that when Hawk gets anxious, he gets quiet and he's contemplative. And so Hawk is beautifully drawn in this volume. He's so well drawn. The confrontation with him and Soo-won, but that look on his face where he's like, if you don't tell me, I'll break your leg. Like that look on his face. Don't make Hawk mad is basically the end result here. And their faces when the one guy's like, oh, they'll drink to die. And then Tetra and Yura are like, not on our watch, bitch. I love Tetra and Yura. I totally ship Tetra and Yura. They are definitely a pair. But so they split up into two groups. And I'm glad that we put Hot and Kija together, which are two hotheads in this situation, or can be. But there was Sheena and Yoon, who are the more reasonable, calm-headed characters. So I like that they're together with this. And then Jaeha, Zeno, and Ayura kind of go. And they team up. I like that Zeno and Jaeha are getting a lot of time together. Because again, we have eldest brother and truly eldest brother put together in the same group. It's great. But yeah, I like that everyone throughout this volume also tries to convince Hawk that Yona is okay. And it starts with Jaeha. He's like, she's all right. I'm sure of it. And Hawk has the little charm, which it's too good. I love it. I love it so much. But yeah, Hawk gripping the charm with his hand, like just to keep a steady reminder that Yona's okay. I'm like, it's great. And my bangs are awful today. But yeah. So this whole scene of the gang all coming together, because yeah, we established that Soo-won and Judo were going back to investigate the dye incident again. And so of course they're there. Tetra finally remembered him from the past when they were kids or when they were younger. But Soo-won's like, well, we should invade and go get Lady Riri. And so Judo's like, no, we're not just going to invade by yourself. That's stupid. So he's like, well, what if we got like the strongest generals? And that's the thing. Other than Kyoga, because Kyoga's not there, but he's obviously got stuff dealing with from the previous volumes. Other than that, Soo-won has brought all of these generals together and all these tribes together to get along cohesively. Like, he's done a good job as king, even if that's not his intention, if it's just a means to an end. So that's curious. We'll get to that. But yeah, I like that Yona's realizing about the weapons, realizing about what the forts are for. Like, she's trying and realizing that people are getting killed. Like, Yona is piecing everything together, and her and Riri just suffering through everything. And I love Riri's angry face when Riri, like, when she's like, oh, thanks for washing my face. And then she's like, I'm so angry, I can't take it anymore. When she's like, I don't want them to think they can get away with this. Like, I love that her angry face. I'm like, yes. I love it. It's great. So we have another mangaka comment. I've also created a Yona sketch collection to be included with issue 8 of Hana to Yume, which goes on sale around the same time as volume 20, 319 in Japan. I did 4 or 5 color illustrations and even scribbled a bunch that's set in the modern day. I want the people who read the compiled volumes to see it too. I hope you can. There are some 4-panel comics for exclusive flyers as well. I don't think I'll be reprinting these anywhere unless I put out an illustration collection. It'll be on sale for about 2 weeks as of March 19th, so get them quickly. I made it to thank everyone who supported the Yona characters. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Ooh, so if any of you have a link to that, is it on the internet? I don't want spoilers, so I don't want to look it up because otherwise I might spoil myself. But if any of you find that collection, especially with the modern day AU, and if you are a patron and you are on the Discord and you want to send me a link to that, or if you are on YouTube and you want to send me a link to it, please, because I'd love to react to it in a future volume when I read it. I love to react to that as well. That would be really cool. But yeah, I love that Riri in this, she is so conflicted because she's like, I hate these people and what they're doing and I want to stop them. But at the same time, I'm so thirsty. Like, I nearly gave in. She thinks she's like, I'm so weak because I nearly caved. How can I be strong enough to save these people if I could barely take care of myself? And I love that Yona's like, you're not pathetic. You've done nothing wrong. As Yona herself is dealing with the same thing. Like, that's the crazy part, right? That they're both struggling with this. To get you clean water. And then, yeah, so they go out to go find water. Yona goes to find the water. Riri chases after her. And Riri, she stands up to this guard. And when the guard, Yona like has the stick and tries to knock him out. And that look on her face, that fire in Yona's eyes. Oh my gosh, I want to get a picture of that. Because that Yona looking slightly feral there is just, it's great. Her looking feral to save Riri. But Riri ends up taking the piece of the broken pot and stabs him in the neck and kills him. Which, Yona, to save her friends, she shot the arrow and killed Kumji. And now Riri, to save her friend, had to kill the guard from Awa. And I love that shot of them like holding hands running through the woods. And Yona being like, it's okay. It's fine. And then Ao tries to help them out by giving them fruit. And Yona's like, hope this isn't poisonous. But then her like holding and like embracing Riri and being like, it's going to be okay. So then there's this line. Yona's like, I hope a day comes when girls like Riri won't have to carry weapons ever again. So that kind of ties back to King Ill's whole thing, where he wanted to create a world where his daughter would never have to carry a weapon and everything would be in peace. But the way he went about it did not end up having that happen. It just made it worse. So Yona having a similar ideal to her father, but the way that she's trying to make it work to where that happens it is different. So that's interesting that we get that connection between Yona and her dad, even though she clearly is thinking of things in a different manner than he is. And we have another mangaka note. Sometimes people tell me that they want me to put out an illustration collection. Thank you very much. I'm motivated by the voices of my readers, and that's one of the reasons I keep working on this series. If you'd like me to create a book or add-on like this, please fill out a Hana to Yume survey so that the editorial office knows you're interested. For any anime-related requests, get in touch with the anime distributor. Really, can we get a hold of the anime distributor and be like, we're season 2? Can we do that? Have people done that? It's been a good 4 or 5 years. I hope people got a hold of the anime distributors and demanded a season 2. That would have been great. Clearly people aren't writing letters enough. I just write a letter and just copy it over and over again and just mail it to the animation department. Like, please do. Oh. And so then, yeah. So of course the dragons infiltrate. And it's kind of funny because they obviously stand out. Like Hawk literally lifts a man up with one. Hawk lifted a man up with one arm. Like a full-grown man that's probably like 200 pounds with one arm to slam down. He's basically got the power of Kija. It's like Hawk pissed off is just, it's another thing, right? But the one guard is like, let's not get rid of them because they're getting a lot more work done than everybody else. And we got a quota with this fort. We got to get it done by a certain time. So I love the idea of like the production industrial angle of it, where they're like, we're not going to get rid of Hawk and Kija and them because they're helping us build this fort. But then there's the obvious, they're clearly standing out and doing something here. What are they doing? So it's like, which do we value more? And they choose to build the fort more. But yeah, I also love that Sheena having the blindfold over his eyes. It reminds me of the very first Blue Dragon that did the same thing before they had the masks. That part's really cool. So Sheena left his mask at home. That's sad, or he hid it. But yeah, and so Kija even tries to cheer Hawk up. He's like, it's okay. And he's like, you can call me big brother. And Hawk's like, shut up, I'm not doing that. I love that Kija tries to like get Hawk to lighten up. And so then, yeah, Hawk says, what if the Princess and I had kept traveling and had no one else to rely on? The idea makes me shudder. I'm very happy that that's the conclusion Hawk comes with. And that's so true to his character. Because when he first asked, what if we'd kept moving without anybody's help? The thing that, some other characters in other series might have been like, if only we had just kept the two of us and we wouldn't have been involved in this. But no, Hawk's like, if we hadn't met all these other characters, we'd be dead. Like, no, we wouldn't have been able to do anything. Hawk's like, my soul and mental health needed to be with other people who could help me protect Yona. He's like, I can't do it all by myself, right? And then that line, I lost my friend and I left the Wind Tribe. Like the fact that he still considers Soo-won a friend that he lost. And he almost says that he's grateful for them, but he's like, that seems like a last time I'm saying this to you sort of feel, so we're not doing that. No, this isn't goodbye. We're not doing that sort of thing. Zeno is interesting in this volume. Zeno is very quiet and contemplative for a lot of it. And Zeno, it's interesting. Zeno, ever since we found out he's immortal and is the original Yellow Dragon, he kind of has taken... You realize just how much Zeno takes a back seat to everything. Zeno's like, let's not worry about that now. It's funny because Zeno, he sort of keeps himself out of everybody's business, but that's a good thing because he's seen it all pretty much. and he doesn't want to, you know, make decisions for others. He just wants to be there if they need him. So it's curious that the immortal character that has the most wisdom out of all of them keeps in the back seat and doesn't say anything. He's like, I just want to let everything play out, and if they need my help, I'm here. So that's really interesting. I like that. But then Zeno still has his like, sorry, and he's jumping on Jaeha's back. So all the generals show up, and including Hawk's grandfather and Hyundai and Taeyu, right? And Tetra's just like, all the forces are gathered. It's like the Avengers. We're going to be fine. Everything's great. And so the strategy meeting chapter, God, this chapter is amazing. So Soo-won reveals that he'd been planning on dealing with the forts to begin with. He'd had some intel about them earlier on, and he was going to deal with them. But now that Riri's involved, they're on a time clock, so they have to move a little bit quicker than they originally planned. And Guntae, this man, he is like the whole, again, Soo-won, oh my God, this whole chapter is amazing. This whole chapter is amazing. And Guntae's like, I'm not here for General Jungji. Lady Riri, she'll be your queen someday, won't she? And Soo-won's face of, pardon? Soo-won just did the meme where the guy's like the blinking meme. That was Soo-won. Like, wait, what? I just love, and Guntae's like, maybe we should hold a wedding as soon as we get her back. And Soo-won's like, wait, what? Just a moment. And Tetra is just losing her mind in the background, like, the king likes Riri, what? There's a wedding, what? He's gonna ask her, and Soo-won's like, hold on. Like, wait a minute. This is the most hilarious thing because, yeah, we've talked about this in previous volumes. I full on think that Soo-won is gay, and the only person Soo-won has any remote interest romantically in is Hawk. I think that Soo-won is just Hawk sexual, and that's the sadness of it because Hawk loves Yona. It's the most unrequited love, but is it unrequited because Hawk loves Soo-won too? It's like, can we have this just like polyamorous triangle where the three of them just live together happily? That's not much to ask. But yeah, Soo-won's like, no. And he's like, what are you talking? And I love, he's like, what are you talking about? And then, yeah, Junji's like, contain yourself, Tetra. And she's just losing her mind. Like, and I love that this is a misunderstanding. And I love that Soo-won's panic, being like, what is happening here? And Guntae's like, well, you got us all here to go protect Lady Riri. I thought that you were madly in love with her, and this was like this giant sweeping romantic gesture to go save her. And the Grandpa Moondog's like, I thought that too. And then Soo-won says, sorry, but no. And then Guntae said, really, I figured I'd be meeting your heir soon. I guess if that happened, General Jungji would be the biggest winner. And Moondog's like, I have mixed feelings about it all, but that's what I thought too. And Soo-won's like, wow, that's a leap. Like, I'm not only not in love with this girl, but you thought we'd be having a kid soon and married. What? I just love it. And Tetra is just losing her mind. Honestly though, it would be hilarious if by the end of this, Soo-won and Riri did fall in love. And they did get married, and Guntae and Moondog are like sliding out of the frame, being like, oh, what was this about you not liking her? Like, that would be hilarious. But I'm also like, I don't think Soo-won likes women. I'm like, I think Soo-won just likes Hawk. But if he got with Riri just to silence them all, it would be hilarious. But, and then they say, at any rate, tomorrow morning we'll start with Hatsuma's fort. He's like, let's change the subject, not into Riri that way. And then Guntae says, maybe I should adopt a child, someone beautiful. So that was kind of sad there for a minute because I'm like, if Guntae is talking about adopting a child, can Lady Yuri not have kids? So I was wondering about that. He says, maybe I should adopt someone beautiful, a child. I'm like, can they not have children? That's kind of sad. That was like a little bittersweet moment there. I was like, why would you adopt a kid if you could have one? So I don't know. That was just a very odd like throwaway line. I was like, oh, I want Guntae to be a dad now. Now I want him to have a kid. Because he seems like so apt about it. That's really sad. And so then we cut back to Hawk and the other dragons. And even Sheena is concerned about Hawk because he's like, I'll let you know right away if I see anything. And Hawk's like, wow, even you are concerned about me because Sheena never talks. And so then, as fate would have it, where they're meeting at is right outside Quokka's borders right on the edge of the say border where Hawk and the others, as fate would have it, the stars aligned. And Hawk is talking about how the charm that she gave him to protect him, he's like, I wish you would have kept this to protect you. And he hears something on the other side of the wall. And he says, hey, who's out there? And for a while, there's no reply after Hawk talks. And you know that Soo-won knew it was him. You know he knew. And he was like, do I respond? And Hawk knows that voice. And he says, this could be awkward for you and the hour is late, but do you have a moment? And it's like the most treading on eggshells. They both know that they're there. Oh my God. It's just, and Hawk's like, are you still there if I may ask? And before we get to this part, there's another manga note. Allow me to clear some common misconceptions. Pew is a girl. Abby, the first blue dragon, was a boy. The children with bobbed hair who are carrying Granny's palanquin in the White Dragon Village are boys too. In general, in my comics, if a character is dressed gender neutrally, doesn't have breasts, uses masculine speech, and doesn't have any clear feminine markers, they are most likely male. Yona the Dawn is full of men. At first, people thought Zeno was a girl too. There were a lot of people who wanted the yellow dragon to be a girl, but I wanted him to be a boy. I like drawing girls, so if there is a position I need to fill, I'll make sure it's a girl. Oh, okay. Interesting. And then, yeah, among the people who've been brought there, have you seen a 17-year-old girl with long black hair? Her name is Riri. And just that Hawk scraping his fingers up against the side of the wall to the point where they bleed. Because he's just so mad. You're the only one here, so I'll tell you this. First thing tomorrow, we're going to destroy this fort and invade this land. When we do, I want you to evacuate the prisoners and get them out of harm's way. With your help, we can save everyone quickly without any casualties. Please, can you do that? And this back and forth, like with the wall between them, and Hawk being like, damn it. It's like Hawk is like, do I put my own hatred over the protection of these other people? And Hawk can't do that. So he's like, at dawn, I'll give you a signal. And we can't see his eyes. It's like, and they're like, that's greatly appreciated. Yeah. And so it's just, and then Hawk running off and Hawk like putting his head in his hands like to cry. Because he's like, I hate this man, but I have to help him now. But then at the same time, he's happy to see him, probably. And Soo-won being like, yeah. That's the thing. I feel like at this point, going forward, we're going to get stuff with Soo-won eventually to find out why he had to kill King Il and why he had to do it now and why he couldn't tell Hawk and Yona. I mean, I feel like that's all, the circumstance kind of explains itself, why he couldn't tell Hawk and Yona, but I feel like there's more with Soo-won that we've not gotten yet, and we will get it eventually. But we have to build up Hawk and Yona's... It's so crazy because this series does what I don't think any other series I've read has done, and it's taken the antagonist, who is blatantly made the antagonist in chapter 1, and it has spent this entire series not justifying necessarily his actions. I mean, it's given reasons for what he's doing, but this whole series has so slowly led Hawk and Yona to go on this journey of the betrayal of Soo-won, how they've dealt with it, and now realizing that Soo-won may be trying to have the same goals as them. And so what do they do about it? So I've not read a series before that has taken such a complex and intricate relationship like the one with Soo-won, Hawk, and Yona and explored it like this. To the point where you're like, you want them to work together. You want them to be together again, but you know that nothing's ever going to be the same. And it's like you just want there to be some kind of understanding, some kind of mutual thread there, but we're not there yet, right? But it's like a start of something, and it's crazy. And then Hawk saying, beyond those walls, he's out there. And then it's like Hawk wants to get to him immediately, right? He wants to get there immediately, and we assume to kill him, right? Because that's what he said he was going to do. But then he flashes to Yona saying, it's all right, I'm all right. And Hawk's like, damn it. if Yona can be strong in this situation, then so can I. And so then once the wall breaks, once that happens, it's like a chaos. It just goes into chaos. The entire chapter 116 is just pure chaos. It's just like, I was so elated throughout the entire thing because it's just like characters meeting each other. Hawk gets to see his grandfather and the kids from the Wind Tribe again. It's bizarre. We get characters meeting each other. Like, we'll get to it. But there's another thing. Common misconception series. Judo is not related to Yona or Soo-won. Not everyone in the same tribe is related, although some of them may be distant kin. The previous blue dragon, Ao, is not Shina's father or elder brother. The same goes for the former green dragon, Garo. That said, within the dragon villages, it is not uncommon for relatives to marry, so they could be closely related. The 4 dragon warriors have generally been sickly or short-lived because of the incredible power they contain. Kija often collapses because he fights recklessly. Jaeha is good at controlling his powers. The first dragons lived comparatively long lives because they needed to leave descendants. It was a mechanism of the dragon gods created to protect the Crimson Dragon King. So that's the thing too we were talking about a little bit in the comments on Patreon, but the idea of the dragon gods and them seeming, and we'll tie that back in with Kija later, and the look that he gives Soo-won. But the idea that the dragon gods themselves, not the 4 dragons, but the dragon gods who have given them powers, don't seem very concerned about humanity in itself there. For being gods, they seem relatively unconcerned. They're just like, They only seem concerned about Hiryu because Hiryu is one of them. Like, they're close, like, godly kin. And so Hiryu deciding to become human, the gods are like, well, why'd you do that? No, we want you to come back and see us. And so that's why they gave the power to the dragon, to the 4 humans to become like demigods themselves to begin with. But that's like this note here. The dragons needed a mechanism to make sure they had enough descendants. So they were like, yeah, they let the first generation live longer, but then the other generations have become frailer and frailer, right? I don't think any of these 4 dragon warriors are going to die in this story. I don't think so. I think the story will end either I think the story will end with the dragon warriors living out the rest of their lives and then finally dying with this generation, with Yona being the last reincarnation of the Crimson Dragon King, or they're going to die protecting her, or the story will end with all of them just becoming mortal without their powers and their powers just not passing on and them just being able to live out the rest of their lives. That's what I think, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It'll be sad if that happens, but I don't want to think about it, so I'm not going to talk any more about it. But I do like the idea that the dragon gods, and that kind of ties to Zeno praying for them to help Kaya, and the dragon gods not really listening. And that's going to tie to what Soo-won believes here in a little bit, so we'll get to that. But yeah, them all showing up, I just love the chaos of this. And Guntae respecting Moondok, being like, oh yeah, you're actually really strong. And then Taeyu meeting Sheena, and Sheena being like, he's a littler hawk. I love, he's like, I found a little hawk. Like, I love Sheena just being like, like just doing 1 + 1. It's so cute because Taeyu does seem a lot like Hawk. He does. He looked up to Hawk a lot. And then Moondok meeting Yoon. And I love that Moondok realizes that Yoon's a boy. Instantly. I'm like, good. Somebody finally did not call Yoon a girl the first time they met him. And then like gives him the head tousle and then like gives him like some candy. And Yoon is trying to tell him about Yona and Riri. But I love that he's like, who's throwing explosives like a coward? And it's Hawk. The humor of them. And I love that all the Wind Tribe members have glaives. They all have different kind of glaives. Hawk's is obviously huge, but Hawk's like, oh my God. And then even Hyundai has a glaive as well. But Hawk believes like it's all a vision at first, but then he's like, oh my God, wait. And luckily Hyundai is fast. And we established that back when we first met Hyundai because he went and got the medicine to go heal Hawk's younger brother very quickly. So it's a nice little callback to that. And I love that Hawk and them are like, oh my God, you're here. And they're like, look, and the whole confusion where they're like, you're here. What's happening? How's this? Like, that was just hilarious. That was so good. And then little Taeyu, like, with the tears in his eyes, seeing Hawk. It's so cute. But okay, so as this is all going on, and as Hawk is talking to Moondok and Taeyu and Hyundai, Sheena and Kija, the white and the blue dragons, are fighting the soldiers, and Gunte is distracted. But then we see next to the soldiers, so Judo is not around. None of the other close members are around. It's just Kija and Sheena and some. Oh wait, what's with his hands? So Jungji is there. Yeah, Jungji is there, and some of the Water Tribe people are there, and Tetra's there. Okay, and so Kija's hand gets bigger, and so Junji calls him a monster, and says he's gonna shoot the arrow at him, and then Soo-won tells him to lower his weapons. And he's like, what's up with you two? And so then Kija goes through the motions of, okay, Hawk clearly hates this man. This man killed Yona's father. He's been labeled the enemy by Hawk and Yona. So why can't I move? That's interesting. So again, we don't know about the sword and the shield, who the sword and the shield to Yona is. I wonder if Soo-won is one of those two things to Yona, if he is the sword or the shield. Could be the sword. Could be the sword that helps her to fight back. Could be the shield that helps her protect Koka. I want to say that he's almost the shield if it was one of those two things, because he's helping to strengthen the kingdom and protect it like a shield. And I'm wondering if the fact that he's a shield, if that's the case, if that's why Kija can't move, because he doesn't sense anything dangerous about him, and because he's supposed to help Yona, if that's why he can't move to attack him. And I love that Soo-won says, what are you? And he says, we're the white and blue dragon warriors who serve the Crimson Dragon King. And Soo-won's like, oh, that's not a myth. Huh. Like, he takes it very seriously. And of course the soldiers are like, oh, it's a fake hand. They think they're dragon gods. That's so brazen. We thought he was a monster. Ha ha ha. And then it's interesting because we see Tetra and Jungji's reaction, but Soo-won's like, I'd like to touch your hand. And then he grabs it. And it shows Kija's heart beating, like, oh, but he doesn't have any other reaction to it. And he says, so it really exists, a dragon claw that can tear through anything. And Kija's like, he's like, you're not laughing with your men? He's like, why? You don't seem like a liar. And then Soo-won says, who's the Crimson Dragon King you serve? It's like, oh, someone you know well. So Soo-won's like, okay, Yona is the Dragon King, supposedly. Okay, so he knows that now. And Kija says, the Crimson Dragon King is this nation's true ruler. I'm saying you're not that person. And Soo-won says, I have no desire to sit on the throne. My only goal is to strengthen our nation so it can't be invaded. Becoming king was a means to that end. I find the 4 legendary dragons quite interesting, so I won't deny their existence, but I have no need for them. So this is interesting. This goes back to Soo-won saying that he wants the power of people, not the power of gods. And that he wants to make a kingdom that can withstand. So I like that, because that means because that was the thing with Zeno back in his whole backstory. Zeno was constantly using himself to protect the kingdom over and over again. And the dragon gods kept him alive through his immortality. But Soo-won's like, I don't want to have to use the dragons. I do not desire the power of gods. I want the power of our people. And Kija's like, oh, okay. So I like that, because it suggests that whatever Soo-won is working towards is building a kingdom where they wouldn't need the 4 dragon warriors. So if the end game of this series is that the dragon warriors lose their powers, or their powers go back to the dragon gods and they cease to have them anymore because Koka is safe and Hiryu is safe, then maybe that's like a means to that. He's trying to get it to where that's possible, because he didn't even think the dragon warriors existed in real life until now that he's met Kija and Sheena. I'm very curious to see if we'll ever get Soo-won talking to Zeno. That would be interesting. I would really like that, to see what that conversation is like. But Kija, who's so fiercely loyal to Yona, is realizing that Soo-won is not necessarily a threat like they thought. And so I wonder if Kija is going to try to have a conversation with Yona and Hawk about this encounter. And so that's interesting. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, I want Soo-won and Yona and Hawk to mend those bridges, and to at least to at least be able to work together. But it's like Soo-won committed such a grave act. It's like, could Yona ever really forgive him? I don't know if that friendship could ever be what it once was, but could she rely on Soo-won to help her? If Soo-won doesn't, but my thing is, Soo-won says he does not want to be king. He doesn't want to sit on the throne. He's just protecting the kingdom and getting it to a state where I'm assuming Yona could rule it. Okay, but before he didn't know how Yona was, so that's a big question. He didn't know how Yona was at this point, right? He didn't know that Yona had grown like she had until the Water Tribe arc. So back when he first took the throne, if staying on the throne wasn't his end goal, then what did he think the backup plan was? So was he just going to just stay on the throne because he had to, but he didn't actually want it? I'm guessing that's it. But what happens after he dies? Like, what measures was he going to put in place? Like, who was he going to set up as his heir if he thought Yona and Hawk were dead? Like, what was going to be his end goal if that was the case? So that's very curious. I'm curious if he didn't ever intend to sit on the throne, but he was just doing it as a means to an end, what was his contingency plan? Like, what was he going to do if he thought Yona and Hawk really were dead? How was he going to pass on the title? Was he going to have a kid just out of obligation at that point? Or what was going to be the case? Who is he going to set up as the heir to the throne? So I feel like there's more that we don't know about Soo-won, and I don't want to be spoiled, but I've got these questions in my head about what his end goals are that I hope that eventually by the time we catch up with the manga, we get some answers for, but I doubt we're going to get all because I don't think the whole picture is going to be revealed until the very end of the series. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And so then, call for General Judo and them. Yeah. And so then Kija asks, what did you think of him? And it's like, I didn't get a bad feeling. It was the same time when we met. The air around him is still but powerful. You can't look away from him. Yeah. So he kind of has that power similar to Yona. Okay. So Mangaka note. Thank you all for your art letters and artwork. Receiving such wonderful gifts makes me so happy. But please don't spend too much money on me. I even receive letters from overseas. Right now I'm so busy working on the manga that I can't reply. I'm very sorry about that. There's no guarantee that I can mail anything out, so please don't include a stamp to pay postage for my response. I'm sorry. I hope I can return the favor by working hard on my series. Volume 21 is up next. There'll be a special edition that includes an anime DVD in Japan. It's about Zeno. Please watch it. Yeah, oh, it's OVAs. Awesome. Cool. Those steady, straightforward eyes reminds me of Her Highness. Yeah, Yona and Soo-won have a lot of similarities. You know. Okay. And so then, God, Yona and Riri blurted out. It's kind of Riri's fault that they got caught, but I want to see, yeah, they shot the arrow and it shows her like getting hit by it. And oh God. And now that we've had the gore of volume 18, Kusanagi's not afraid to get gory now. It's like, oh my God, really? But yeah, damn it. Please don't. I'm such a fool. And yeah, Riri just carrying Yona on her back and saying, it'll be okay. We can't outrun them, but I can turn myself in so that they'll leave you alone. It's like, no. And she's like, goodbye. Thank you for everything. Oh my God. That in shot of her. Oh my God. And then she gets caught by him and they're going to take her to the execution grounds. And Yona, that face of her, like with her hair down in her face, where she's like trying to move. She's just so desperate. So what's going to happen? So I'm like, is anybody going to find Yona? How are we going to do this? Is Jaeha and Zeno going to find her? It would be interesting if Zeno and Jaeha found Yona, because Jaeha just said it was going to be hard to carry 3 people on his back. And Zeno's like, well, I can just run. So I'm going to guess that Jaeha and Zeno are going to find Yona in the woods, and Jaeha will be able to carry her, and Zeno will be able to run because he has all that stamina. And I'm going to guess that Soo-won and the others are going to maybe they'll jump back. Maybe Jaeha will jump back and tell Hawk and the others that Riri's been taking the execution grounds. They have to save her. I don't know, but I don't think I can wait. No, this volume was too good. Oh my God. So yeah, and then pain, go away. The 3 sick dragons. Oh. Typical daily life. So I guess this is about the mangaka. It used to take me over a week to do the art. I only have 4 days to do the art. My assistants are coming tomorrow. Not good, not good. Oh, come on. Come on in, Ione. Opens doors. The cat says, cat entering. Nice to see you. Wait a second, you're moving weirdly. What's that? Hold it. I know that walk. You have poop stuck to your butt. It stinks at a time like this, or a cat. So the mangaka's lamenting about the cat being dirty. Why does she come to my workplace? Not on the floor mats. Don't scoot. Not now. There, I'll get it off of you. It has gloves on. That's a good girl. And then the cat attacks her. Cut it out. Yona's in trouble and you stink. I'm serious. Sorry, but can you wake up? Please, wake up. It's 2 a.m. What? You look scary. What took so long? Ion got poop stuck to her butt. It's terrible timing. I'm super busy. Please help. What? Oh, it's her little sister. I can't handle alone. It's a 2-person job. What? One person holds the cat and the other cleans her up. Oh my god. That's great. So I like that the mangaka lives with her little sister. Oh man. So yeah. This volume was so good. So good. Like, everybody's gonna eventually find out Yona and Hawk are still alive. And what do we do with this? I'm curious. The one guy, the advisor that's with Soo-won, we've only seen him at the palace. Like, what he seemed like he thought Soo-won was gonna become king and stay king. So this whole, there's so much little things with Soo-won and his motivations we don't know about yet. And I'm gonna be curious to learn them as we go through this. But Hawk is now taking the first steps that Yona did to realize that they have to work with Soo-won for the benefit of the kingdom. Which is sucks because they're dealing with all this personal trauma from him. But it's like, I feel like Soo-won needs to explain himself to them, but they needed to be in a place that could accept him explaining himself to them. And so maybe through the events of the Water Tribe arc and this arc, they're going to get to that place where they can at least hear him out. I don't know. I don't want to be spoiled, but this volume was so great. I friggin' loved it. And I don't think I can wait a week. I don't think that's possible. So we'll see though. We shall see. So in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, what you all thought of this volume. It was great. I loved it. But yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. But yeah, volume 21, like I said, I'm going on vacation next week. So I was like, I'm going to have to read that ahead of time. And now I'm really glad that I have to read it ahead of time. So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers. But otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with Yona of the Dawn, volume 21. Bye.